Welcome to the Stop Over Drinking and Start Living podcast, where high-achieving, goal-oriented rebel women come to learn how to live a vibrant and fulfilling life without requiring alcohol to get through it. No labels, no judgments, no saying you'll never drink again. Just real proven methods to help you stop rebelling against yourself with alcohol so you can drink less and do more. I'm your host, Angela Mascenik. Let's dig in. Welcome to episode 311. Stop reacting, start choosing, master your decisions. Well, hello. Welcome back to the podcast and happy holidays, everybody. If you're celebrating, I am pre-recording this just a little bit early to have a couple days off during the week of the holidays and spend it with my family. And I'm very much looking forward to that. But this is an important topic, so don't sleep on listening to this episode. No matter when you listen to it, it's going to be good. Okay, so you might want to come back to this one over and over and over again. It's about making decisions. And I can't tell you the conflict and the confusion that so many of my clients have over making decisions, from planning their drinks to say yes to a social engagement to figuring out if they should say no to something. All sorts of reasons that it just causes them a lot of conflict and a lot of stalling and a lot of indecision and a lot of confusion. And I love evaluating how to make decisions. I have this super easy process that anybody can do. It does take you slowing down though. Okay. So I want y'all just to consider how you make decisions, how you have made decisions in the past. And, are they usually like real fast decisions? Do you deliberate for a long time? When you're emotional, do you like to make decisions? Think about all the ways in which you make decisions. Usually when we're kind of suffering and we're in some emotional strife, we want to make a decision to get out of that real quick. So last night, for example, I received some information about my youngest child, and he was not doing well on the sports team. And we got an email from the coach saying that he didn't show up for practice on Monday. And then he basically called it in yesterday, and he lied to us about one of those things on Monday. He told us a whole song and dance about why he didn't go to practice. And then so receiving this information was really disheartening. And my husband and I were just like laying in bed, and we looked at our emails, and he got the email and he read it, and I was just like kind of gut punched about it. And, we both just started chatting about it and like, okay, well, what are we going to do? And how are we going to do it? And blah, 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 right? And I just really slowed down, and I was like, I'm like, honey, I really just can't actually think about this right now. I need to slow down. I'm really upset about it. And so I want to just let myself be with my feelings and think this through, and then we'll figure it out tomorrow. Because it was like 8:30 at night. There was no decision that needed to be made. I didn't want to like go in there into his room right before bed and like lay out this punishment from this emotional place, right? So I liked that. I just slowed down enough. I thought about what would be impactful for him and helping us not make a decision when we're super emotional and in a reaction to this news that we received. Okay. And he was okay with that. So we didn't. We both went to bed and got sleep. And then, this morning I was like, okay, so let's not start Arlo's day that way either. So as soon as he comes home, we'll talk to him about it and lay out the plan of action. My husband was like, okay. So, right. So like Arlo is going to be more receptive to this when we're not emotional, and we're going to give ourselves time to really think through how we want to proceed. Right. So there's a decision that needs to be made, and there's really not an emergency. We think we want to get through something. Like in the past, I would have been like, oh my God, and like freaked out, went to his room, started yelling at him, laid out these crazy punishments, and, like probably made a bigger deal of it than necessary. And there's definitely times for that. Like if somebody's in danger of hurting themselves, right? But like these types of things typically aren't urgent. And that's really what I want you to think about. Most decisions you don't need to make as soon as you find out information. You really don't. You can give yourself a beat, right? Especially if it's an emotional decision or you're feeling emotional. Okay. So just take a moment and pause. If you tend to want to think through something and have a quick reaction to it because you're feeling something, that is an opportunity for you to pause, okay, and slow down and think through. When emotions are high, intelligence is low, okay? And so when you're in the throes of your emotional response to information, it's probably not a good time to be making any decisions because that's clouding access to different ways of thinking about it, right? Especially when we're thinking about our relationship with alcohol, we want to slow down more. We really, really do. So a lot of times people, when they get frustrated with their drinking, right, they want to make decisions from that place that may not be the best for them, right? So a lot of times people want to quit working on it when they're feeling really down on themselves or really emotional. And remember, when you overdrink, it adds more emotions to things. It triggers us, right? And so we're disappointed, we're upset, we might be feeling shameful, or physically we're not feeling great. And so definitely making decisions in those moments, right? Especially right away the next morning or even that day is not advised because we want to let ourselves get over that, move through those emotions, get back to feeling better. And then when we're in a more clear-headed, clear-minded, more neutral state, then we can think about things and make the best decision. All right. So there's all sorts of ways we can look at how we're making decisions. I recommend when you are changing a relationship with alcohol, especially, you don't make decisions the same day because those decisions that you make during that same day, right? So say you didn't plan to drink and it's the end of the day and you want to drink. Okay. Making that decision in that moment, you are in response to your feelings. And making decisions when you're in response to your feelings is not a conscious decision. It's not a deliberate, thoughtful decision. That decision that you're making in response to how you're feeling at the end of the day is definitely in response to your primitive brain's wants and desires, your habits, your well-formed pathways. So we don't want to make decisions when we're in that. Okay, we want to make decisions when we're not urging. We want to make decisions when we're not craving. We want to make decisions when we're not tired. That's why I encourage you all to make decisions in the morning, right? 24 hours in advance at least. Okay, so you're protecting yourself from making reactive in the moment decisions. And those decisions, the ones that are thoughtful and thought through and you're being intentional, always treat you better. They just do. Okay. So a lot of times, another example I can give is I just had this early bird enrollment for my Stop Over Drinking and Start Living coaching program. And a lot of people, quick gut reaction is, I can't do that. I'm going to fail. I'm not going to follow through. It's too expensive. I won't actually be able to do it. And then I'm going to feel ashamed about myself. They're making decisions based on what their mind is offering right away. It's not a mindful decision, right? Your mind is going to have all sorts of thoughts all day long about decisions that you have to make. And when they're bigger decisions, it's worth your time to slow down and think things through and look at how you're approaching making that decision. And this is the first step that we're going to do it. We're going to be aware of what we are thinking right away. So I recommend if you're faced with a sort of a bigger decision to make, slow down, write down, what is my first thought about this thing? Okay, so if you're thinking about joining my coaching program, I'm just going to use that as an example. I won't follow through. That might be a common thought that some people have. So you would write that thought down. I won't follow through. Okay. And then the next thing you ask yourself is, all right, so I have this thought about this decision. I'm not going to follow through, or I won't follow through. How do I feel when I think that thought? And then you rethink the thought and you try that thought on again. And you're like, okay, how am I feeling thinking I won't follow through? Probably a little deflated, or disappointed or bummed, right? It's probably not a good feeling. So figure out what that feeling would be for you and write it down. Okay, so I'm just going to go with a little deflated because that's how I feel when I think that thought. For you, it might be different. I won't follow through. And then when you have that feeling that you've identified, right, you know typically what you do when you feel certain emotions, right? So when you're feeling deflated or unmotivated or disappointed, what do? What actions usually follow that feeling? Okay. So when you're thinking about this decision about joining a coaching program and you have this thought, I won't follow through, and you might feel deflated or disappointed, what do you normally do when you feel that way? Well, you probably aren't being proactive in changing your relationship with alcohol, right? So maybe you're not taking action. Maybe you stay stuck. Maybe you just go ahead and drink because you have this belief that you're not going to follow through anyway. So why bother? Why put any effort in? So you might drink more than you want to. You might go and scroll. You might get on social media. You might go ask other people for their opinions or thoughts. You might go into your past and look at all the other times that you tried something and didn't follow through, right? So you ruminate, okay? And then ultimately you might decide that you don't do it. Okay, so that's an action. Okay. And so that creates a result for you of not continuing to follow through. All right. So when I look at all of this on paper, right, if I'm faced with a decision, this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm evaluating what I'm thinking about it. So my thoughts create my feelings drive my actions. And if my action is not doing something based on this thought and this feeling, I'm like, oh, interesting. Then the next question is, do I like this? This is what I'm currently thinking. This is my current feeling. This is the current way I'm making this decision. Do I feel good about making this decision from this model? And if I were you, I probably wouldn't feel good about it because I don't want to think I wouldn't follow through, especially if it's something that I wanted to do, right? So we're only faced with a decision if it's something that's like piquing our interest, right? So if you are making a decision based on this belief, it's like, well, of course that's what your first thought is, especially if you haven't figured it out yet. If you're stuck with a problem of over drinking, and you have this belief that I'm not going to follow through about joining a program or doing something different, it makes sense that you think this way because you haven't figured it out yet, right? So if the tool here is looking at how you're making the decision to not join or join goes in your action line. So the thought is, I won't follow through. The feeling is deflated. The actions from that deflated feeling are not doing the work, maybe drinking more, not making that decision, saying no to an opportunity, right? And then that creates a result of you not following through on your desire to cut back. Make sense? So then you get to look at this with new consciousness and awareness. And this new consciousness and awareness is like, okay, I'm slowing down here. I'm looking through how I'm making this decision. Am I happy with this decision? Is this how I want to make this decision? And you can ask yourself some questions to kind of like check it. Like, is this how I want to make this decision? Is it because I'm scared I'm not going to follow through? Is this coming from fear? Could be, right? Am I doing it because I'm scared of a future feeling that I would have? So like if I think about not following through on something, if I don't follow through on this and I join it, I'm going to be disappointed if I don't follow through, right? So am I making that decision because of a future negative feeling that I might have? I would say, yeah, that looks like I am making a decision that way. Because if you don't think you're going to follow through, you're really just trying to protect yourself from future disappointment that you might experience, right? So that's motivating your brain to say, oh, we don't like that. We don't want to be in pain and we don't want to suffer in the future because we might feel that disappointment if we don't follow through on something. So we better not do it. We better save ourselves here and protect ourselves. Okay, that's that motivational triad in action. It's seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, and saving energy. Okay, so you can see how that's playing out here now with more consciousness and slowing down and workshopping how you're thinking, feeling, and acting on this decision. Okay, and so then you just kind of keep inquiring. You keep asking yourself, okay, so if I don't like how I'm making this decision from fear or from disappointment, how can I get to a decision that makes me feel good about it? Okay. Is there any other reason other than what I'm kind of telling myself right now is like future failure, potential future failure, right? Is there any other reason why I wouldn't make this decision? And listen to what you have to say. Listen to yourself. Okay. Could it be like, I just don't resonate with Angela? Think she's annoying. I don't think I would listen to her. She has terrible advice. Is it really a financial decision? Like I really can't afford this. This is gonna be too much of a stretch for me. That's gonna make me stressed about having to make this work, or is it something else? Okay, so if slow down enough to really evaluate how you're making that decision. Okay. And then decide, okay, so if I don't want to make a decision based on future feelings I might have or from fear, what else could I think about it? Okay. And then you let yourself kind of think something differently about it. And then you might conclude something differently. And then you run through those models again. Okay. I personally kind of have a value system of like, I don't like to make decisions based on fear or a feeling that I might have in the future, a negative feeling that I might have in the future, because feelings come and go. Feelings change all the time. And probably if you're sticking to this one example, you're probably already feeling the disappointment in not following through with your relationship with alcohol anyway. You're probably already experiencing that. So this decision isn't going to save you from that, right? You're already experiencing it because if you were considering joining the program, you don't have the relationship with alcohol that you want in the first place. Does that make sense? So this decision isn't saving you from experiencing negative feelings. Okay. And we can manage our mind around that and learn how to feel these feelings so they don't really drive these types of decisions. Okay. And so just rethink it, slow down enough. Do you want to make decisions based on that? Or how do you want to make decisions? I like to make decisions based on the results that I might gain, the opportunity that might be available to me, because I want to, just because it would be something fun and interesting to do. And I just kind of let myself workshop that to get to a conclusion. I'm like, okay, I think this is just my brain freaking out right now, but I actually really do want this. Even though it's going to be hard, even though I'm going to have to be uncomfortable, I really do want this thing that I'm interested in. And then I let myself explore that and feel into it. Okay. So this is the exercise of how to make conscious and thoughtful decisions, is exactly what I'm talking about. Slowing down, putting pen to paper and understanding, am I making this from a feeling to prevent a future feeling from happening? Or am I really making this based on the goals that I have, my values that I have, the things I want to accomplish this year, and sort of my value system? And I promise if you take the time to go through those exercises, it will help you make better decisions. Okay. Another kind of decision we can look at making is, especially around the relationship with alcohol, is, I'm getting ready to have the dry January experience. And you might think, oh my gosh, I could never do 30 days without alcohol, or that's going to be too hard, or that's going to be too boring. Pause, slow down. Let's workshop that. What is your thought about it? How does that thought make you feel? Notice the actions that are driving your behavior. Okay. Changing your behavior is not a linear process. It has a lot of ups and downs. There's going to be a lot of difficult emotions that you're going to have to learn how to be with. You're going to have to learn how to manage your mind. You're going to have to learn how to slow down. And evaluating these types of little decisions, whether it's your drink plan, Big decisions like joining a coaching program, taking a 30-day break from alcohol, going to a social situation and not drinking or having a limited amount. These are all little tiny decisions, and some bigger ones, that are important for you to have some attention, right? If we just go on autopilot like we have been for the last decade or 2 or 3 around this kind of thing, you will probably end up where you always have been. You might just stay stuck. So in order to make progress, it takes effort, and it takes slowing down and looking at how you are making decisions. Okay? You can use this same process in evaluating a relationship, making decisions around your parenting like I do, looking at new opportunities if you feel like leaving your job or applying for a new job or taking a promotion, or do I really want to go on this vacation with all these people I really don't like, right? There's tons of decisions that if you don't pause and slow down around, you can just stay in autopilot and you will end up having the same results that you always have. Sometimes those results can be feeling resentful because you keep saying yes to things you don't want to be saying yes to. You could find yourself in the same type of relationship with your friends or your partner, a romantic relationship that don't feel good to you because you're not slowing down and looking at how you're making these decisions. So the first step is awareness, identifying the decision that's ahead of you and not making it in the moment. Slow down, pause, wait, especially if you're emotional. Okay. Let yourself go to bed, process that feeling, take a beat. Okay. And then come back to it when you're not so emotional or triggered. Put pen to paper. How am I thinking right now? What are my thoughts about this? Let me workshop this to see how I'm making this decision. Am I making this from an emotional place? Am I trying to prevent future negative feelings or outcomes? Am I okay with making those decisions? Sometimes you are, and that's okay, right? It's okay, but at least you're conscious of it. And at least that then becomes a conscious decision. You've slowed down enough to see how you're making that decision, right? And trusting yourself and working through that is a process. Okay, so I really hope this helps. Re-listen to this episode, take notes, come back to it when you need to make a decision, and do these examples that I'm talking about on paper, pen to paper. What am I thinking? How does that thought make me feel? When I feel this way, what do I do? And those actions are going to lead me down a path. Is that the path that I want to go on intentionally? Or is that path going to lead me to the same outcome that I've been experiencing time and time again? If I want a different outcome, I'm going to have to choose a different path. And that usually means probably making a different decision. Okay. And I promise just pausing and not making decisions when you're emotional is going to save you from a lot of future problems. Okay. Including over drinking. So think about that for Dry January. Think about that for joining my Stop Over Drinking and Start Living coaching program. Dry January is going to be fun. You don't have to claim that you're going alcohol free for the whole month. It's 100% free. Just come, just participate in some of the things. We're doing all sorts of fun things this month. Go to angelamascenik.com/Dry January. Check it out. Sign up. Try some things. Try to think about, okay, I'm going to make a different decision this time. I can be scared. I can still have these feelings and thoughts and decide to take different action. That's where your power comes in. That's where the magic happens. That's also available to everybody when they're making a decision. I can still think, I don't think I'm going to follow through, and I can still choose to do it anyway, besides having that thought and having that feeling. That's when we interrupt our automatic cycle and our automatic mind, right? It's like, okay, I recognize I'm thinking this way, and I'm not going to engage with that thought. I'm not going to believe that thought today. I'm going to choose to do it even if I'm scared. I'm going to choose to do it even if I'm feeling self-doubt, because that's when you interrupt your behavior, and that's when you create power within you to make the changes that you seek. All right, my friends? Join Dry January. Consider joining Stop Over Drinking and Start Living. Enrollment is going to be open all through the month until the end of January. Then we're all going to go through the program materials together. All right? Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you have a beautiful holiday, and I will talk to you next week. Bye for now.
pull you down.